Hello everyone, I'm Sophie and I'll be reading from the book by my guru, His Eminence the 25th Sam Tuko Rinpoche. And this is the book, The Living Buddha Within, Sam Rinpoche. And I will be reading from chapter 3, Reincarnation. That is page 24. Everything moves in continuity as spoken by the great Dharmakirti. Every single thing is continuous. Everything has to have a beginning and everything has to have an end. The beginning is beginningless, but there is definitely an end. There is the cessation of sufferings. All phenomena have a past, even if you cannot trace its beginning. A piece of paper must have been to the press. It must have been to the printer, but before that it must have been pulp. It must have been a tree. It must have been a sapling. It must have been a seed. It must have been born from a previous tree, and that tree born from a previous tree, and so on. In fact, the lineage is innumerable and stretches back into beginningless time. Similarly, our human body is also uncountable. Our human body has no end and it has no beginning. From our human bodies to exist at this moment, it had to have had a previous existence on the basis of logic. If our human body was existing at 8 o'clock, it must have also existed around 7 o'clock, and at around 6 o'clock, and at 5, 4, and at 3 yesterday, the day before, last month, last year, 10 years ago, and infinitely beyond. Conception. If we were conceived at 10 a.m., our body at 9:59 a.m. was apparently inside of our parents, as the white cell of the father and the red cell of the mother. These two cells must have come from our parents and must have come together at 10 o'clock when we were conceived. At 9:59 a.m., our bodies must have had a previous moment. The previous moment, it was inside our parents, like that. When we trace back again and again, our parents must have came from their parents and them from their parents and so on. It is beyond human or mental comprehension to be able to count how far we have to go back. Therefore, at 9:59 a.m., the white and red cells left your parents and entered the womb of the mother, and you took rebirth or formation, meaning that you were conceived at 10 a.m. And that is where your own physical body came from. Now, in order for your mind to exist at this moment, it must have existed in a previous moment. It is 8:20 p.m. now. It must have existed at 8:19, 8:18, 8:17, and so on. It must have existed at 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and at 6 o'clock. It must have existed yesterday. You see, the mind moves instantaneously. It moves constantly to form a continuum. The mind does not exist in one moment and then goes. In order for it to have an existence at this moment, it must have a previous moment, a continuum. In order for it to exist tomorrow, it must exist today. The mind cannot just appear tomorrow. Therefore, in order for your mind to exist at 8:20 a.m. now, it must have existed at 8:19. It was continuous 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock, yesterday, the day before, the previous month, last year, all the way back to when we were 10 years old, 9, 8, 7, 6, to the time we were born. Then we moved back to the time when we were inside our mother's wombs, the 9 approximate months of gestation. The mind still existed in a subtle form, not as active as now, but still existing. At the same time, when you were conceived at 10 o'clock, at 9:59 a.m., your mind must have existed. In order for your mind to exist at 10 o'clock, it must have existed at 9:59. Think about that carefully. It must have existed at 9:59 and therefore existed at 9:58, 9:57, 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock. If you were born on the 24th at 10 a.m., where were you on the 23rd at 10 a.m. and on the 22nd at 10 a.m.? Now, if you say that your body comes from your parents, it is logically correct and can be scientifically proven. But if you say to me that your mind came from your parents, I can debate with you on a scientific and logical basis. If your mind existed at 9:59 and entered your mother's womb, therefore to create your mind should be a perfect offshoot of your parents' mind, their thinking, their likes and dislikes in this life. Therefore, if your parents are geniuses, experts, and good at music, you must be the same. If your parents are not intelligent, you should also be unintelligent. If your parents are highly intelligent, you should be a genius. If your parents are mechanics or experts on computers, you should be too. If your parents are simple farmers, you would carry on and be a simple farmer. It is true that certain conditions, certain things that we like, are conditioned by being with our parents because we have been with them for a certain period of time, and we have been conditioned to like this and that. But deep down inside, our way of thinking is completely different from our parents. 99% of the time, our thinking is different. That 1%, that 0.1% we agree on is coincidental. So, if that is the case, we can logically debate and refute and say, if that mind existed at 10 a.m., logically it must have existed at 9:59. Now you can ask yourself, where was that mind at 9:59? Where was that mind at 9:58, 9:57? It must have existed in order for it to exist at 10 a.m. A phenomenon must exist on a continuous basis. It must have a previous moment in order for it to happen the next moment. It cannot just spontaneously arise at 10 o'clock. Any phenomena, any object, whether it is living or not living, cannot spontaneously arise. So where was your mind at 9:59, 9:58, 9 o'clock, and 8 o'clock? It must have existed outside of the womb in another form. So in order for you to have your mind now, in order for it to exist at 10 a.m., it must have existed at 9:59, perhaps in another dimension, and that was most probably your previous lives. If you died at 11 o'clock, whatever date in the future your physical body starts to deteriorate, it is deteriorating now, but upon death it will deteriorate at a faster and a more visible rate. It will deteriorate starting at 11 o'clock at a much faster rate. Then after a few months, you can say that it basically completely goes except the bones. You can say that which will deteriorate again and again. It goes back into the earth and regenerates into another form. It will regenerate into another being, with mind or without mind. It will in fact become nourishment for another type of living being. So your body regenerates and continues in another form. Where is your mind then when it leaves your body at 11 o'clock? Where is your mind at 11:01, 11:02? Your body continues to exist in another form, and your mind will also continue to exist in another form. It will continue. That will be your next rebirth. Rebirth. The whole basis of Buddhism is the theory of reincarnation. How that comes about is not something made up or something that is used to scare young children or to scare us into doing whatever we practice. It is a very exact and precise science that is very logical, that can be examined in your own mind, which was originally spoken by Lord Buddha and later further explained by great masters such as Dharmakirti. This is one of the main texts that we study in the monasteries. Dharmakirti spoke of all phenomena as existing on the basis of continuity or continuum. On this basis, Buddha, with his great omniscience and clairvoyance, puts the doctrine of reincarnation in ordinary, worldly terms. There are people who can actually see clearly or remember clearly what happened to them when they were 4 or 5 years old, and where they were living when they were 1 year old. There are even people who can remember clearly what they were doing inside the womb, what they were thinking, and how they were feeling. Further still, there are those who can clearly remember what they were doing in their previous life, and they can remember the life before that by the power of their meditation. Even today, with right meditation, you will be able to unlock the powers of your memory and your mind, which will help you to focus. Make your mind straight like an arrow, clear and powerful. It is so sharp that you can remember things that you were very young. When you were very young, never mind previous lives. When you will never, which that you will never recall otherwise. Therefore, with mind training, remembering your previous lives and previous existence and what you were doing, then it's possible. However, only the fully enlightened Buddha, as a fully enlightened being, can see their previous lives clearly without fault all the way back. People who have certain meditational abilities can see their previous lives up to a certain point and then stop, and some can see your previous lives to a certain point and then it stops. It depends on your meditational abilities. What determines you to take on a future rebirth and where? In samsara, we will take rebirth within the 6 realms: the hell realm, the pretas or spirit realm, animal realm, human realm, demigods or deva realm, and the highest God realm, not God, but not God as a Buddha. Not this sense of God, but gods with a high worthy existence and a lot of sensory pleasures. You will take rebirth in one of the 6 realms again, according to the disposition and imprints that you have collected in your previous lives and in this life. And more importantly, at the moment your body dies, the state of mind that you have died in will bring up the karmic imprints that you have planted in this life and in all your previous lives. For example, you could have been a great farmer. You could be cultivating plants, flowers, and other crops. You could have been a simple gardener cultivating the land to flower seeds that you have taken the time to plant. You have taken the weeds, dirt, and pebbles out to make the ground smooth and soft, pliable and ready for planting. Then you plant the seeds. You water it every day and put manure on the ground and protect it. You kept the dogs and cats away. Then, just when the seeds are about to sprout, at that time, if you give good protection and watch it well, it will sprout strong and big. At that moment, one of your children came by and trampled on it and crushed it. Or a bird flew down and took it out thinking it was a worm and killed it. Or a cat or dog can come around and urinate on it and kill it. At that moment, whether the plant will grow or not is dependent upon your protection. Similarly, at the time of death, although you may be a great Dharma practitioner and you have worked very hard during your life, if your greed, avarice, hatred, and anger are not controlled at the time of death, you will worry. what's going to happen to my family, what's going to happen to my possessions, what's going to happen to my position, my name, my fame. When you become attached to your attachments, your previous negative karma that you have collected will sprout again. And with that, I will end the sharing session here and continue to share in a short while on chapter 4. I'll end the session with the completion dedication in Tibetan. Jang yo sen jo rin po shi ma ke pa nam ke shi ke pa nam pa me pa yang go ne go do pe wa shu do ni do rin po shi ma ke pa nam ke shi ke pa nam pa me pa yang go ne go do pe wa shu da so ji ni sa pa ke wa di ta na dro wa go na ka pa dang je pa je su no san tra pai tam ping in po rin tu sa se sho ke wa kun te yan da la ma da tra me cho ki pa la long cho che sa dam na ngi yo te wa so ne do ye chang ngi ngo pa ngo tu shu ke wa di yo do da la ma sang yo do yo ne dro wa chi ka ma lu pa de sa la go pa shu cho ki ga pu sung ga pa cho su nam pa pe wa la ke ki sa ma si wa dang to ki ma lu sa wa shu da da sung ye do sun dan dro wa sung ye la te ni ke wa la san tra pai tam pa yo ri va gi shi ni mo dele sen dele ni mi gunyan dele shi ni sen tatu dele pa ko jo sungi jingi lo ko jo sungi ngo so ko jo sungi tra si shu jesu na ma ko sen rop ti jing na pa training jo shu ke pa da lo sam tem pe tro me sap sungi tro e mu sa tatu ni gi shi ka we ra we ko shi kam den pen da de o ma lu go ni cha re se wan ten sen ge so cha pe shi de ba ro den gi shi home don't being out of Maropa, then in Dallas, so go down the Palochanam, gave us so shik. Thank you.